At the start of 2024, I did a cost analysis for a single story extension to the back of a house. It was 3 metres by 7 metres wide, single story with a pitched roof. We broke down the cost of each element in terms of foundations, brickwork, roof, tiles. The way I established the cost was I took 3 prices over the internet, everything was solely internet based, and found an average for the cost of that element or material or whichever it was. We put all this into a spreadsheet, which is I've made available and people can have for free to help them when working out building costs for extensions and things like that. To briefly look at the house, it was a rear extension. That was the front, this is the rear. That's with the extension. And elements that we looked at excavations, we looked at drainage in the excavations, we looked at different types of footings, specialist footings. We kept it simple for the exercise and we did standard footings with brickwork, we added a floor slab, we added walls, we added a roof carcass, roof tiles, insulation, plastered out, a structural opening, and then obviously the completed project. The initial spreadsheet gave us a breakdown of all elements and the amounts that we'd need in costing up the extension to be built. We looked at materials, we looked at elements, for example architects, diggers, kind of sundries, and then we looked at cost of labour, of roughly how many men it would take, how many days to do the work. I've now compared this to 2005. On the left here we've got the 2025 breakdown, on the right here we've got the 2024 breakdown. Any element in red is where costs have increased, any elements in green are where they've decreased. So I'll briefly go through all the elements that have increased and then we'll have a little comparison at the end. So I'll talk about planning and labour costs towards the end. But if we can see straight away, so in terms of a digger during the excavations, we're saving what looks like about £25. In that case we had £100 there and we've got £75 on the latest costs. In terms of skips, originally we found them for £195, looking more like £250 nowadays. In terms of the sewer, we've got an increase in pea gravel, we've got a decrease in joints for the pipe work. In terms of concrete, we've got an increase of £130 from £100 which we originally found. That will run through on various other items as well because the concrete comes up in a number of factors. So if we scroll down a little, we've got let's get onto brickwork. So in terms of brickwork below DPC, again we've got the increase in concrete, we've also got an increase in mortar compared to what we originally had. When preparing the floor slab, we've got a slight decrease in the MOT roadstone and the sand blinding compared to what it was previously, only marginal from 85 down to 70 and 75 for the sand blinding down to 70. Again, the concrete and the screed, I think this must be down to aggregates being more expensive, which have upped the price. In terms of block work, blocks have slightly decreased by the looks of it from £2.70 to £2.20. There's several different blocks you can use, obviously different manufacturers have different costs and prices, but that was what I found on average. Insulation, as in fiberglass, looks like it's slightly increased by a couple of pounds. We've got £7.60 to £9.50, and the same with the thicker stuff. We've got £10 to £15. Brickwork, I've kept about the same because you can pay £2 for a brick or you can pay £3 for a brick. so I haven't really changed that one on there. Wall ties have increased from £11 a pack to £13 a pack. All starters have also increased by around £1. Cavity closers look to have decreased from £15 to £11.50. Lintel, concrete lintel, has increased, no sorry, that is a metal lintel, has increased from 615 to 725, and mortar, which again is an aggregate, has increased. In terms of the roof structure, we've got increase in the timber from £5 to £8.15. That'll be for wall plates, so that'll knock and affect the rafters as well, and they've gone from £6 to £10.50. Soffits and fascia is about the same. Roof felt has decreased from £96 to £60. Roof battens have decreased slightly by the looks of it, from £1.25 to 60 pence. The dry verges, which are on the edges of the roof, have decreased from I think I did that as per number, that's why it's slightly different on that when I looked at it. But they've decreased to about £2, where I think they were slightly more, they might have been about £2.50 before. In terms of guttering, that's increased slightly, and so have gutter joists, only marginally from like £50, but the joints have increased quite a lot from £2.70 to £6. Gutter outlet has increased, it looks like it's doubled as well, from £4.50 to nearly £9. And lead flashing, which has actually decreased quite a lot. So we looked at the price being £117 per roll to £140 to £40 a roll. Insulation between rafters, so insulation looks to have increased from £12 to £18. So that'll be the same for the insulation to the underside of the roof as well. Plasterboard looks to have increased as well per metre square from 15 to 18. So again, that'll have a knock-on effect on the actual plastering price. Insulated plasterboard, again, that's increased from 15 to 18. Jointing compound looks to have increased from £10 a bag to £15 a bag. The jointing tape has decreased, looks like over 50% there, from £10 to £5, and edges have increased marginally from just under £1 to just over £1. Skirting boards have increased slightly to £2.30 over £2. In terms of the steelwork, that looks to have decreased slightly from £450 to £400, but the steel plate, might be the way it's cut when I was searching it, has increased slightly by £17. Again, they've got the plasterboard increase on there. I've kept the electrical the same at whatever cost that is, the same as the plumbing as well, because there's a fairly specific jobs which will be priced during the construction of the project. Now, if we go into the summary of both, we can see our increases more specifically in terms of each aspect. So the excavation have gone up from 1,000, just under 1,700 to 2,000. The drainage is increased by around £100. Standard footings have increased as well. Oh, that's red. Only marginally by £150. The sub-floor brickwork has increased by around £400. The floor slab has increased by around £300. And above brickwork has increased by over £1,000. Your roof insulation velexes have increased by nearly over £1,000, and the plastering has increased by about £300 odd. A bit of a decrease in the carpentry, which is the woodwork, and I think I found the bifold is slightly cheaper as well. The internal opening has decreased slightly. Increased slightly by a couple of £100. So overall, the cost difference of materials alone was 34,000, 600 and we've gone up to 38,500. So we've got about 2.7% increase in materials. So as I mentioned, the other couple of elements was the architectural. So yeah, fees may well have gone up because we're looking a year ago to 18 months ago, so fees might have increased. So I originally had £1,000 there, that might have increased. I know that planning's definitely gone up, and that's gone up to 615, which is quite a large increase. It's actually doubled the planning fee. As building controls would have gone up as well, that fee would have increased because they do pretty much every year. When I've been doing sewer agreements, they're about the same, a few pence difference, so they're not majorly. And CCTV surveys, which would be whatever's being charged at the time, to be honest, so I've kept that the same. The one thing I have increased is the labour cost. Originally I looked at £250 per man per day, just as an average, because I'm going to break it down into what each labour does, as in carpenters, plumbers, or roofers, whatever. So I just kept it fairly simple. Due to cost of living, I've actually increased that to £300 a day, and that does give the biggest increase of around 20%. So whereas before the labour would cost just over £16,000 at £250 a day, that has increased to £19,000, which is a 20% increase. So overall, we've gone from 47 to around just under £53,000 in 18 months. Let's say all prices are taken off the internet. I did a comparison in terms of looking for 3 different prices from 3 different places and finding a bit of an average. And I've had to take a few assumptions as well on what things would cost. But we can see as it's increased, not as bad as I thought it would be actually. I think more so the cost increase is from labour and the cost of actually doing the work. But feel free to leave any comments. Thank you for watching.